All right, we are back. It's been a while since I've got a chance to do some kind of new content for you guys. I actually have been recording, I just haven't had a chance to edit. Watches and Wonders just passed by. I actually had about maybe 2 or 3 hours worth of content I was going to break up and give each brand kind of a business grade analysis of how they performed at Watches and Wonders that went beyond just what they actually presented. But I took a step back because I, as a person who watches the platform, got oversaturated with so much Watches and Wonders content, especially, and this is, I'm gonna be real, especially from people who are talking about watches that they're only going by the pictures and they haven't held watches in their hand, and then they're making a judgment based off of, on the watch, based off of just the pictures, not off of what they actually know. So I try not to do that myself. When I was looking at the analysis that I had, it was like what companies or what brands, based off how they presented, would make me want to actually go into a boutique and try on a watch. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy the watch. It just means that, hey, I'm interested, I'm curious. And there are some brands like JLC where I'm on record saying that most people, most watch collectors, most people, they discover JLC. It's not a brand that they go out and then they say, hey, I'm going to buy that, right, as my first luxury watch. They discover that and then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I didn't even know about this watch. So there were brands like that. But then you hear people talk about, the Rolex released, it was meh or whatever. And then 6 months from now, when these watches start hitting the actual showrooms, markets, and on wrist, then they're going to be like, oh, it's growing on me. It is what it is. That being said, for this video, I wanted to talk about a couple things. I want to answer some questions that I've actually gotten in the past. And it's a cool thing because I actually got a notebook now and I start writing down the stuff. So if I look like I'm reading my notes off of here. And I'll start off with a question that I've been getting asked more and more now, especially since I'm the watch guy. And especially I try to be 100% transparent with my biases, as well as saying that, hey, I have a fundamental belief that you earn every dollar that you have, that there's no such thing as an extra dollar, right? Because each dollar should have an assignment, whether it's for future growth or for present enjoyment. There is a level that the dollar should have, or the pound, or whatever, the dinar, the dirham, whatever your denomination is. So one of the questions I was asked was this: what watch brands would I look at, or what watch brands should I look at for my first watch? Especially if I'm either for myself or if I'm going to gift for somebody. We're approaching the time where high school graduations, college graduations, Father's Day, even Mother's Day, birthdays, anniversaries, all those things happen that people want to give some kind of token or memento to. So what watch brands, and we're not talking about models, we're just talking about brands, should I look at for a gift or for my first watch? And this may come across as a hot take. In my opinion, I think it's very important to have a reference point. And part of the reference points is this: you don't have to explain them. You don't actually have to explain to somebody why they go get, if we're talking about cars, why they would get a Toyota or a Honda, because we're talking about, they're built great and they'll last for 300, 400,000 miles if you take care of them well, right? So it's not about the enthusiast side of it, it's about the practicality side of it. And for me, it's, before price, budget plays, you should have a reference. And I think it's 3 brands that you can be fairly open-minded with, and you don't have to explain them if you're giving them as a gift. And even for your first watch, between these 3 brands, you should be able to find a watch within their collection that you would like, and it's not a wrong answer. So, and before I talk about these 3 brands, I want to say this. This is something that I have to reiterate. There was a time when we used to buy watches or get watches that it was only about what we enjoyed and not about the resale of the or resale value or the secondary market or anything like that. The secondary market is a good reference to what the value of a watch is, only if you're going to buy that watch, not what it's worth to you, but what the value of that market says. For example, if a watch is pure or well, 22 karat or 18 karat gold, if a watch is 18 karat gold and it sells for $50,000, but the gold value in that watch is $13,000, usually that watch on the secondary market is going to take a hit from $50,000 down to maybe 30 or less because it's going to get closer to what the actual intrinsic value of that watch is, especially if there is a stainless steel version of that watch that is far less. It's going to meet somewhere in the middle. So I want to say don't focus on the resale of a watch. Focus on the enjoyability, what you enjoy about that watch. Now, getting that out of the way. And this isn't in a priority order, so to speak, for these three brands, but there is a little bit of priority for them. First brand I'm going to pull out there is this, Omega. If it's good enough for James Bond, it's good enough for the Apollo 13 mission, or Apollo 11, probably Apollo 13 too as well, yeah, something like that. If it's good enough for NASA, and it's good enough for 007, it should be good enough for you, okay? Now, why I say this, because Omega has the Constellation line. They have the Seamaster Professional line, or the Seamaster line in general, the Speedmaster line in general. They have different lines that go from classy to dressy for women's, for men's. The Aquaterra line, absolutely beautiful. They're watches that you can get and you don't have to think about, is it good? Will it last me? Is there a service network for it? Is there what the quote unquote the intrinsic resale value is? No. You don't have to think about that when you go into an Omega because you are going into a great watch that you're going to. And if you gave somebody an Omega, they should know Omega, right? So I don't think they will complain. The second brand, and this may throw some surprises, it shouldn't, Cartier. If I gave my wife a Cartier, if I gave my mother-in-law a Cartier, it doesn't matter whether or not it's a Tank or a Century or if it's a Tortuga or a Panther, it doesn't matter which one I gave her a Cartier. Now, if I gave her a Cartier Mist, she probably, we'll talk about that another time. But Cartier is a watch that, is very, across the brands, across the genders, across everything. It is a watch brand that you don't have to explain. You're going to get a great watch, great jewelry piece, great long-term value piece, whatever you want to call it. And that's why I say Cartier. And last but not least, obviously, the one brand that you don't have to explain to most people, the most recognizable brand in the world when it comes to watches, even though it's not the most sold brand in the world when it comes to watches. I think Casio has that, and then probably Apple Watch after that. But if you got anybody a Rolex, if you gave me a Rolex, if you send me a Rolex in the mail and it's not a fake, I will probably enjoy and appreciate that. And I'll probably give you a shout out on the tubes. So there we go. The three brands you don't have to worry about. You don't have to think about if you're looking for a gift for somebody else or your first watch. Are there other brands? Yes. Tons of other brands. But you're going to depend on what you know about watches and what they would know about watches. My wife, I know this. If I gave her a preference and I'll go to the P's, she would take a Piaget over a Patek Philippe because she likes Piaget and how it looks. I don't have to guess with it. But that doesn't mean that she likes every Piaget. But I know this, she does not, unfortunately, does not like a 24. That's not her. Well, at least this version of the 24. She did like the old version of the 24, but I digress. Okay, question number 2. And I thought this was funny because this was asked by a friend. Why does it look like when you're posting wrist shots that you're always dressed up? You're always in a long sleeve shirt or whatnot. Do you get dressed up for trying on watches? And I will actually answer that with my third question in a way. So this, I'm going to try to push these two questions together. The third question was, simply put, what is my current watch collecting philosophy? And if you heard me talk about this before, you would hear me say that I'm not a collector, I'm an enthusiast. I just happen to have a growing collection. And what I've learned in the past year, because I bought a lot of watches in the past year, and what I've learned in the past year, it is important to have your own learned system. Um, so let me touch on that when I say, is it important for how you dress when you go try on a watch? Now, for me, watches should play a role. And if you think of roles like for casting and acting or whatnot, you have your star role, you have a supporting cast, you have your background extra, you have all those people, but you need them to bring a scene together. And so when I say watches should play a role, I'm saying, okay, who's going to be my star? Who's going to be my daily watch? What is going to be the watch that I'm going to wear 80% of the time, Monday through Friday, whatever you want to call it? And if I'm going to go try on that watch, then I need to be in the clothes or the attire that I'm often going to be wearing that watch. Because, and I just was looking over there to see this, if I had this watch here in the office. Because the reality is, if I don't have, like let's say for example, I wear long sleeves every day. Most days I wear long sleeves. I know I'm in Florida, but most days I wear long sleeves. I wear office attire. Sometimes I'll wear a short sleeve, but let's stick with the long sleeves for now. If I have long sleeves on and I wear a watch that can't go underneath the sleeves, like right now I have this Unimatic. Sometimes it wants to go underneath the sleeves, sometimes it doesn't. But if I know that it can't fit underneath the sleeves comfortably, then that watch no longer becomes something I can wear every day. And I want to live in my watches. So, for me, here's my current role. I have 6 main roles in my system. 1, the daily watch, the watch that I wear 80% of the time. 2, the weekend / evening watch, the watch that I wear 80% of the time that I'm not wearing the daily watch. So, if you think about this, there is a certain number, and I'll talk about that in a minute. 3, a daily dress watch. Because for me, I wear because I can be in a suit or I can be in a long sleeve shirt at any given time, a daily dress watch or, an office watch, or as we now are seeing, especially with this year, a lot of modern watches are going back to that kind of 50s, 60s, 70s office aesthetic of being back on a leather strap, something that you can wear every day that can go underneath the sleeve. So that's why I say that. Then for number 4, I have a formal dress watch, weekend watch, something that's ultra thin, something that it wears well. I can put it on with a nice suit, not necessarily a tuxedo, but we do have something for that. And then number 5, a standout watch, a watch that it just brings you joy. It's your statement watch. It's there, like, hey, look at, I don't want to say look at me, but this is the watch that is the flagship of my collection experience. So, and then number 6, so I do have a 6th role, but the 6th role is kind of weird. The 6th role is my experimental slot. Think of it. I heard this saying once, and I'm taking it. The 6th role, its bags are always packed, meaning that it's a watch that can come in, it can leave, and I am glad I got a chance to experience and enjoy that watch. It is not necessarily there to stay forever. Now, here's what's great about slots 5 and slot 6. Slot 5 and slot 6 can always take over for any of the other slots. But once it kicks one of those other slots out, then that watch has now gone to slot 6 and its bags are packed and it's ready to get evicted. It's taking up space for a new experience, a new enjoyment. So that's kind of one of the reasons why. By having that, it took me out of this whole mindset of I needed to have a chrono, I needed to have a diver, I needed to have a dress watch, I needed to have a field watch, I needed to have a pilot watch, and trying to find, parts for a actor instead of trying to find actors for parts, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. So when we asked, why do I dress up? I don't dress up because I'm going to go into a Rolex dealership or a Tudor dealership or a Patek dealership. And I guess boutique is probably the best way to say that, not a dealership, even though they call themselves authorized dealers. Anyway, I digress. I would dress up because that's how I'm going to be at work, and I want to make sure that that watch fits. For example, and if I can reach over real quick, you guys might have seen this is this is my slot number 5 right now. This is my slot number 5, my statement, fun, whatever watch you got going on, and this is my. Let's see if it goes in. My alienized G-Shock, right? So that's what that is. This is what that is, right? If you look at how big this thing is on my wrist, I could not wear that with a long sleeve shirt. And if I was going to try on something like that, there are watches that I cannot wear with a long sleeve shirt that people love. But I just know that I wouldn't get a chance to wear them. So why should I spend all that money on a watch? That's why I like most chronos. I don't really look at chronos because most chronos are big and thick. And they're not going to fit underneath the sleeve. Not all of them, but most. So that's it. Now, I just told you what my number 5 is. Number 6 is really kind of, it's a float. It's my micro brands. It's like, it's Timex. Like these are, their bags are packed. They may live outside of the system at a certain point. I will show you my daily watch. As a matter of fact, the intent with my current daily watch is for it to go to slot number 2, would become my weekend watch. And eventually, with my current daily watch, it will live outside of the system. Currently, my number 6 watch is, like I said, it's either Microbrands or Timex. This also serves as my weekend watch most times than not. It doesn't. I mean, it has no numbers on it. I don't know if you can see that. It has no numbers on there. There we go. It has no numbers on the dial, so it also serves as my weekend watch. Now, what else do I want to put on there? My number 4. I got it right here. My number 4 watch is the Timex Noah Lighthouse. That's my number 4 watch. I have them all out here. My daily dress watch, right? My daily week watch is my beloved Super Seville. My weekend watch, I already showed you my weekend watch, and my number slot 1, my daily watch that I wear almost every day. That is my Air King, my Rolex Air King, so that way they can come on there, my Rolex Air King. So that works for me. I do have a planned growth evolution ladder that I have for that. But for me, it's not about, quote unquote, the price when it comes to, like, once I had these roles, it never became about the price. Because your budget, 9 times out of 10, is going to limit what price you spend. But it really did become about the taste. And while I understand that price and quality go hand in hand, part of the journey is at different points of it, your taste will change. When I was 20, 25 years ago, chronos and divers were what I was doing, and I didn't know that, but that's what I was attracted to. And then when I look at some of my old watches from the early 2000s, they're all chronos. It's probably because I liked all that was moving. Now, I just want something that's easy to read and that's simple. There is a nerd watch that I'm looking at right now for an upcoming milestone birthday, and we'll see how that goes through. I'm not going to talk about it yet until I find me. I think I found the actual boutique I want to deal with, but I'm giving one more boutique a try. And if not, then I will tell you which boutique that is. So hopefully, I know I said a lot. I talked really, really fast this time, and I apologize for that. If I talk too fast, let me know. I'll slow it down on the next video. But hopefully you understand that why it's important to have your own learned system. It saves you money. It saves you heartache. It saves you grief. And a lot of times on this platform, a lot of watch YouTube will actually hype up watches that they would never buy. But it's kind of like, if I went out, bought this watch online, didn't like it, I still need to justify why. And I'll give a good example before I end this video. this watch right here. So I showed you the other Timex Noah. When I got this Timex Noah right here, see if it, yeah, when I got this Timex Noah right here, I absolutely loved this watch online because it reminded me almost of a JLC Reverso. It was in that Cartier tank style, had a moon phase. I love moon phase. It had a date. But I could not read the date on here. And when I put it on my wrist, it just was not, it didn't feel the right size. Whereas, even though they're very close in size, the Lighthouse was a much better wearing watch. So therefore, I wore the Lighthouse. My wife wears this watch every once in a while, but this is a watch that I don't know if I'm going to keep yet or not, or if I'm going to exit out of it. I don't know, but I do have 2 new moon phases from Noah coming in, and that will answer my question on whether or not I keep this or not. So we'll see, right? If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I am going to try to start a series if I get enough questions during the course of a month, that at least once a month I'll have a Q&A. I think we learn a lot. There's a couple guys I follow their Q&As, and I learn a lot just from the conversation. Not just, it's not about being an expert on watches. I am far from an expert. I do a lot of research, but I am far from an expert when it comes to watches. I just know what I like and how I'm learning more on what I like and don't like. And to me, that's the most important thing, is to buy what you enjoy and what makes you smile. Like a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out.